Yeah, we're good. This is so super weird. Trey Radel here, live from a bedroom in my home. If you are streaming us, welcome. It is good to have you here in my home with me. This is the day two of the quarantine edition here of The Drive. We just to recap, if you have not heard, a friend of ours unfortunately does have COVID. They're doing fine. My family, we've all tested negative. But to be on the safe side, of course, and we are quarantining, and so we've got everybody here at home. And you might even hear the little girls screaming or yelling just outside the door. You might hear somebody banging down this door. You might hear Fortnite in the background music. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen, but this is day two. Let's see what happens here. It is good to be with you. Katrina, how y'all doing? Psyched to start this. I want to start tonight with a little culture. Typically when we start the show, as this show really strikes this balance between culture and politics and culture, and underneath those, the politics can be just kind of what's happening here and now, what's in the news, what's relevant, but also behind the scenes stuff that I always like to share from my time being in Washington. With culture, it's also, though, a look at how what's happening on the ground across the country culturally is, in fact, affecting politics and where people steer money, how legislators decide to legislate when it comes to anything from illegal immigration to climate change and more. And so tonight we're going to have a little fun to start with something that I'm not even going to say. I'm going to start with Bill de Blasio. What you're about to hear are the letters CP time, or CPT, as it is sometimes referred to. What this is Bill de Blasio introducing Hillary Clinton years ago when she was running for president, eventually against Donald Trump. And if you remember, de Blasio actually supported Bernie Sanders. And so here is a skit that they did on Broadway. And not only is it just super awkward and uncomfortable because it's Bill de Blasio and Hillary Clinton. I mean, those two up on a Broadway stage trying to do anything is one thing. But de Blasio manages to offend a few people. Let's take a listen, Ian, cut one. Oh, I mean, how horribly awkward. First of all, you want to talk about the way that the left gets so upset when it comes to jacking other people's cultures. I mean, Katrina, Ian, it's not just me. Bill de Blasio's not exactly spitting rhymes as much of a hip hop artist, is he? He's pretty terrible at that as well. Yeah, as long as he can. By the way, he is terming out, and the New York City being the largest city in the United States, I think is interesting to look at. There is a race heating up there to replace him. It will be interesting. Side note, as I love to just deviate off all over the place, it will be interesting to see, given the current status of New York City with all of the violence, the insane lockdowns, businesses getting decimated. I think that what New York City looks a lot like right now, so does Los Angeles, Chicago, and other cities across the United States, are those cities of the late 80s and early 90s. And if you remember, what that ushered in was Rudy Giuliani, a Republican mayor of the ultra-liberal New York City. We'll see what happens coming up next there. But so I wanted to point out that he used CPT, and that is a derogatory term that stands for colored people time. And it's a derogatory term, and as I always like to be completely transparent and share, undoubtedly a friend of mine, a very close black friend, and I, when we text each other, he will text me CPT. I will text back, like if I'm going to be ahead of time, we joke around and say that I'm on German time. There is no question that culturally throughout the world, you see people who are more attached to time. Now, I say that because you're about to hear one of the most insane sound bites I think I've ever heard from someone who is part of government talking about how white people are obsessed with time and that, in fact, government just needs to get rid of it altogether. Ian, let's take a listen to cut 6. What you're hearing here is the Equity Task Force in the state of Washington. And one of the main administrators here, Dr. Karen Johnson, says that part of equity is to remove things like gender and now time. Take a listen to this bizarro answer/rant. Go ahead, Ian. So I don't know if we're having an issue with anyone not being able to hear some of the sound bites on the stream. Ian, Katrina, I don't know if you could take a look at that. At least we've got one comment there on that. So what she just said is that, I think it's hilarious. First of all, just to use the term white people and then say all of you are obsessed with this is insane. It's racist. I mean, just imagine saying, black people, you all are, and insert whatever you want to. Hispanics, you all are this or that. But of course, it's fine because she's talking about white people. Now, I think it's funny that she's like, white people, they set aside 30 minutes of time for this, 30 minutes for that, whatever it may be. And they're just so obsessed with time and agendas. The latest people that I know are two brothers, two white dudes from Detroit, Michigan. A shout out to them if they are listening or streaming us, or anybody in Chicago who I went to college with. They're the latest people I've ever met. In fact, when I was in college with them, lived with them, one was a roommate, I remember going to Detroit to go visit them, and my flight left at 4 o'clock that afternoon, and I told the dude that it left at 2 o'clock that afternoon. Why? Because I got there on time, and he was freaking out because he thought that we would be so late. Mike is streaming streaming us right now. Who knows who they are? First of all, again, this is an example of a few things that are happening, I think, culturally in the country, that you do see these, I think, ignorant attempts to wash all of history, to cleanse all of history, to clear all of history in any way that the left really can. And that comes with, it started with Confederate statues, which I understand, and I understand that. I have an empathy and an attempted understanding of that. Then, as we said though on this show, is like, okay, well, the problem is once it started there, next up is George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. No way they would go after Abraham Lincoln. And what happens next? You begin to see the movement to get rid of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and the founding fathers. And the latest now is Abraham Lincoln, removed from a high school in San Francisco. Now, I get that's just one example, and it is in the insane, ultra-liberal San Francisco, but it's just going to keep coming and more often. And I think that the left's ultimate goal here, and this is not really even tinfoil hat conspiracy theorizing, it's that they want to get rid of the Constitution. And if you can continue to degrade, denigrate, and make out our founding fathers, the men who wrote the Constitution, as nothing but racists, misogynists, slave owners, ignorant fools who knew nothing, who all might as well been a bunch of Nazis, fast forward 50, 100 years later, they are trying to cancel them. It's very similar to how cancel culture is happening all over the country. Why? Because if you get rid of the Constitution, if you are able to, and look, I mean, I get now that we start getting into, well, are you going to have a legislative process to do that? Are you going to go and do constitutional amendment? But if you see the left pushing this further and further and further, you at minimum begin to wonder, where does this end? I mean, if you can basically chalk up the Constitution as totally unacceptable, then you can continue with what the left is pushed for anyway, which is no borders, socialism in one way or another, and also getting rid of the Electoral College entirely. And all of those are very scary things because it's what keeps checks and balances in this country. To go back to the white people comments, really what that is a cultural push to just continue to once again denigrate and allowed to do so white people, but in the most bizarre ways. And as we started this with Bill de Blasio ranting about colored people time and white people time, and Hillary Clinton saying, no, it's cautious politician time, he managed to offend a lot of people because that was racist, just like what that woman said. And again, I understand how there are cultures that may be a little bit more tied to time than others. And a great example would simply be Germany and Italy. I mean, you go to Italy, I remember living there, we'd be on a bus route, be driving in a bus, and the bus driver would literally pull over to the side of the road, not at a stop, to go have a cigarette and just chill, have the cigarette. Why? Not worried about time. In Germany, 5 minutes early is late when the trains come. I understand that certain cultures do that, but when you just make that assumption about everybody, it's exactly what that woman just said, which is just as bad what Bill de Blasio said. It's offensive, it's racist, and it is all, once again, part of, I think, a larger movement to cancel culture in America. Her comments were followed up by this, that the Office of Equity should model practices and decolonize boards by identifying, dismantling culture-bound rules and decorum, time requirement, education, and what we call, quote, expertise. So let me just rephrase that. We need to dismantle anything, whatever education means. I mean, you've seen the movements to get rid of just scoring grades at all in any way, shape, or form. Time requirements, that doesn't matter, no time at all. And whatever an expert is, it doesn't matter. They're not experts. This is A Drive. I'm Trey Radel. We'll be right back. Yeah. Like us talking right now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Drew knows a way. I don't know. I don't know. You gotta. I can't think about that stuff because I don't know anything about it. I would encourage you to reach out to Drew. If you want me to reach out to Drew, I will. Okay, you want me to? I mean, okay. You want me to email him? You don't want to? How how would I do it? How do I have any control over? Somebody's. I'm. Hey, Orlando. Hold up, Ian. Stand by. Orlando and Lopez. Do you hear us speaking right now? Do you hear me speaking to Ian? If I shut my mic off, you can't hear me. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Jim. All right. So I'm on. Well, hey everybody. I might as well then. Hell, I might as well talk to everybody. Hey. Yeah, I know. Hi. All right. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not cursing up a storm, everybody. Oh man. I'll just stay on. Hi, Orlando, Jim, Javier, everybody. Thank you. I didn't know that my audio was being listened to. Thank God he just said that. Hey everybody, we are streaming live from my home here on the second day of our quarantine edition of The Drive. I am Trey Radel. If you're listening to us over radio, thank you for being with us. Thank you for putting up with us as we still, I know I'm just still trying to figure out some of these, everything like my microphone here and how to get everything together. And I will tell, let me just be totally honest with you. I just feel like yesterday was a crap show, and already so far this is a garbage show. That's how I feel. I feel totally just I'm out of my element. Yeah, well, there you go. Welcome to our garbage show. I know it was terrible. I mean, it's not like I got a whole lot of bar to raise here. I mean, it is The Drive. So. And I'm also just learning for those of you who are streaming us that my voice, as I talk with Ian, who's back at the studio, my voice is being heard by everybody. And thank God I've got Orlando, Jim, Mike, aka Gambo, and everybody else here letting me know, hey, bud, we can hear you. Thank God I'm not here dropping F-bombs and stuff like that. Or yelling at my children on camera. Welcome back to the Drive Quarantine Edition. If you have not heard, my family's under quarantine. We're good. We all tested negative for COVID, but we know somebody, and we're with somebody that we were exposed to and had it. If you are just joining us, we'll be talking a little bit about cancel culture and how it's being applied culturally throughout the United States to, in fact, affect politics in a very liberal, left-leaning way. So as you continue to hear about white supremacy, I want to share with you a group of people who must have been tripping on mushrooms. And that is because I am reading this story. Activists protest white supremacy. Somebody was assaulted, and they're claiming it was a hate crime. So you're going to right away assume if they're protesting white supremacy, well, it definitely was a white person that assaulted somebody, right? No. Before I get to this one, I want to actually reflect on Proud Boys. Enrique Tarrio is from over in Miami. Look at me, I'm like pointing. I'm pointing. He's just down the road over there. Enrique Tarrio, even if I was not in front of a camera, I'd still be doing that. And Ian and Katrina witness that every day. I'm like, oh, they're just over there, as if Miami's over there. Enrique Tarrio, yeah. Apparently they're for me. They're for my head. So this dude, Enrique Tarrio, is a founding member of the Proud Boys. And the Proud Boys have had some members who have said some pretty nasty things, done some dumb things, but overwhelmingly, it's an organization devoted to good, to a cultural tradition in the United States. And in fact, they've even talked about standing up for people regardless of their gender, standing up for gay rights and more. And it's not a white supremacist group, as the media would tell you. Now, of course, they're labeled that, just like Oath Keepers or whoever else, simply because they're conservatives or Republican. If you're either one of those and you have a group, you're automatically assumed to be a white supremacist, as we've learned over the last 4 years. Basically, if you're not a Democrat or if you do not identify as a socialist, you're a white supremacist. So Enrique Tarrio has, first of all, he's Hispanic, he's Cuban, and I think maybe Colombian. And Proud Boy members are also black. And the Washington Post did an entire expose on how white supremacy brainwashes minorities. That, to me, is once again yet another example of how white liberals in particular think when it comes to minorities. And Ian, as we hit this 526 mark, I'd like to extend a little bit too. And our phone lines are open on this, 239-479-5592. So instead of saying, wow, look at that, somebody who is, believe it or not, a minority and identifies as conservative, instead of saying they can think for themselves, it's all some either sort of conspiracy, or they've been brainwashed, or they're just stupid. Back to this article. Activists protest white supremacy. Why? A black man was arrested for attacking an Asian man. Once again, the way that this has been covered is that the black man cannot think for himself, and that he's just been so subjugated or brainwashed that this is part of white supremacy, as the Asian person was attacked by a black man. And so you had protests in San Francisco and New York City unite against white nationalism. You know, the other part to this, though, and never forget this, within so-called grassroots organizations, you have your activists who I don't want to discount that they are there and they march for what they believe in. I mean, look, if you go to Washington, D.C. and wear a vagina on your head to protest whatever it may be, abortion rights, whatever, you're pretty passionate. I don't want to take that away from you. But never underestimate an actual political apparatus's influence over grassroots. And so when you have something like this, we're a bunch of sheeple who get together and say we're going to protest white supremacy after a black male was arrested for physically assaulting an Asian male, and they put it under the banner of white supremacy. It's once again to promote a very specific agenda. In all of this, the coverage, I think, of minorities in this country who voted for Donald Trump, and the way that they're covered are all once again, it all once again underscores the way that liberals in this country treat minorities. And the worst are the friggin' white, wealthy liberals, as we've talked about. You know, when you look at the do you know that Donald Trump exceeded all expectations, boosting up his Hispanic vote in AOC's district? Think about that for a second. In AOC's district, in which is, I don't know, like Queens, a huge Hispanic population, Queens, maybe the Bronx. Donald Trump improved his numbers there, but that's just a microcosm of what happened all over the United States. It wasn't just Venezuelan Americans and Cuban Americans who said, I don't like the Democratic Party because I'm starting to see socialism. It was Hispanics from California to Arizona to New Mexico to Texas that all said, I like the way that Donald Trump talks. I like the way he speaks. I like his policies. I like his policies on immigration and culture in general and putting America first. And what were they all called? You bunch of idiot machismo Latinos. That's why you like Donald Trump. Because he's machismo. I mean, what a condescending way to just look at an entire group of people. But that's exactly what they did. But it shouldn't come as a surprise. Let's take a listen to Joe Biden from just the other day talking about blacks and Hispanics who apparently don't know how to freaking get online onto the amazing thing we call the internet. Let's take a listen to cut 4, Ian. Blacks and Hispanics don't know how to get online. Look, first of all, I can't believe this man is our president. I mean, for all of the crap that Donald Trump took because of mean tweets, this guy is not only openly racist, as we've seen time and time again, year after year after year, but do you hear him rambling? What is he even talking about? The blacks and Hispanics don't know how to get online, nor do they know how to get in line at your local Walgreens. This is Joe Biden. This is the man who is president right now. And it is, I want to say that it's utterly shocking to me with the lack of coverage that goes on with things like this. I mean, just imagine a Donald Trump, a George W. Bush, or a Ronald Reagan saying something like that. And again, what do all three of those men have in common? Well, you know. We're going to take a break and be right back. This is The Drive. I'm Trey Radel. I'm clear off the radio, but everybody here hears me. Hey, for any of you watching, I've got commercials in my ear. What should we talk about next? You can comment. I can see most of your comments popping up here as we stream. Oh, this is very weird. GOP completely missed the Trump-led integrating decades of lost minority vote. Yeah, I agree. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Brandon, you coming to Florida? I hear that you might be. Biden, yeah. Biden did drop that word. Yes, he did. Even if the Biden thing with him clearly saying that word, I always go back to, I don't think that Joe Biden is mean-spirited as a racist. In fact, a friend of mine who I don't want to call out immediately, but would always, a friend of mine from Chicago, would talk about soft racism. And I know I've talked a little bit about this on the air too. But like Biden, I absolutely don't think ever, I don't know about ever in his life, but certainly as a lawmaker, a senator in the Senate, that he ever was mean-spirited and wanted to drop an N-bomb or really go out and hurt blacks and Hispanics. It's soft racism. It's, to use George W. Bush's quote, it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that's exactly what Biden exemplifies. Every time the friggin' guy talks, calling Barack Obama clean and articulate, saying, where do you find the Indians in his neighborhood? Oh, at the 7-Eleven. I mean, this is some racist ass stuff. But that's what, sorry, I'm totally distracted. That's my rant on that. This thing, look, it's I am not in my room. Let's just say that. And I do have a cool poster in the background. This poster in the background, that's right, Andrew, it is. It's habitual and subconscious, and that's exactly what happened. This poster is Peter Max. Peter Max did the artwork for the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album. And anyway, he autographed a little something for me. I met him 15 years ago in Naples when I was a reporter. This thing, that's just a decoration. I don't know. I'm going to put up some other poster. So what poster should I put up? There's a question. What poster should I... By the way, it's always weird doing this. What poster should I put up here to replace this? I'm kind of thinking some Hunter Thompson. Oh, this is so bizarre. Those of you who are with me here on break, this is just really weird for me to be doing this show. I don't know. I feel totally out of my element. Anyway, I hope I deliver here. I will be right back. Trey Radel, your host of The Drive here. For those of you that are streaming us, we get to have conversations off air as well. So if you're on your way home and you, for some God knows what reason, still want to listen to the show while you're at home, you can stream us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. If you just search for Trey Radel, you'll find it, and the station will pop up. With regards to Joe Biden talking like that, Biden really exemplifies soft racism, soft bigotry, the soft bigotry of low expectations, which is something that I think is actually reflected in the way that the news ends up covering issues with either minority voters or conservatives in general. And it's quite frankly sad, but I think it was best reflected in Donald Trump, his ability to get more minority votes across the country, not just in pockets of South Florida, for example, but more votes from Hispanics and African Americans across the country than any modern day Republican at all. And what happened? They were just written off by the media as just kind of low IQ, can't think for themselves, or they've all been brainwashed. They're all part of the white supremacist movement. I mean, this stuff is crazy when you look at the way that not only is it just flat out racist, the way that the wealthy whites in the country, the white liberal media, paints minorities in the country who vote Republican or vote conservative, but I mean, then they get into these insane theories that, well, you're just part of the white supremacist thinking. I mean, that stuff is just as crazy as George W. and the Jews did 9/11. This is insane stuff, but it, of course, is happening across the country. And it all, with the way that the media covers it, is all part of an agenda, right? Just like when you take a look at what's happening now, I want to read a headline here. The first migrant facility for children opens under Biden. Can anyone, Katrina, Ian, anyone listening right now, do you know what a migrant facility for children might be? Do you know another name for that, another term for that? Cages. Remember those? Kids, hashtag kids in cages. And exactly. It wasn't anything that Barack Obama did. They have switched it now to migrant facility. And that's because the guy who helped build the cages is president now. Let's be clear about that. Listen to this. This is the Washington Post. Yeah, it's better because of the name. The name is just so much better, and therefore it is better. A name does. And in fact, as we look at many of the different ways that the left in particular can take words and rephrase them. I mean, I think one of the most incredible rebrands in the country is from abortion to women's health care. I don't even care where you stand on abortion, but abortion is abortion. It's not women's health care. That's exactly right. The right of who? Yeah. Exactly. And that would apply to schools. Like, do you have any right to choose what school you want to go to? Could you take a voucher and go somewhere different with the taxpayer dollars that every student receives? No choice there. No choice whatsoever. Let's keep minorities in the least funded, lowest funded, horrific schools there because that's the way that the left wants it. There should be no choice. In terms of the language and the way that it bounces all over, now that the guy, meaning Joe Biden, who built the cages, Joe Biden helped build the cages for children, is president now. It's a migrant facility. And it literally has like soccer, basketball courts, an area where you get treated. I mean, it's got bunk beds inside. It has a sign that says, Bienvenidos. Listen to this. This is coming out of the border of Texas. Dozens of migrant teens boarded vans Monday for the trip down a dusty road to a former man camp for oil field workers. It is the first migrant child facility opened under the Biden administration. Now, I'll take apart that language in a second, but hear this. The emergency facility, a vestige of the Trump administration that was open for only a month in summer of 19, is being reactivated to hold up to 700 children ages 13 to 17. First of all, I want to note the term, as we just pointed out, migrant facility. They're no longer cages. It's the same thing. As the Washington Post has just recognized, it's the same thing. It's just not called cages anymore. For teenagers or the even younger children who are in fact separated from their supposed parents because you don't know if it's their parents or not. I also want to note the term migrant. Look, if somebody enters the country, you're an illegal immigrant. There's legal immigration and illegal immigration. And the more that, once again, to stick with this theme of the way that the left is either changing language, pop culture terms, or cultural terms or cultural norms, it's all part of canceling, quite frankly, conservatism in the U.S. with the way that you extrapolate it. And this is one of them. This is just a very simple way to get rid of the term illegal immigration, illegal immigrants in any way, shape, or form. Why? Because everybody should be welcome. We should be inviting everyone here. And I want to note that when it comes to legal and illegal immigration in this country, I have forever been just as critical of Republicans as I have Democrats. But Democrats, they've got the long-term plan. Republicans have wanted illegal immigration in this country because they wanted the cheap labor. That's what big businesses wanted. Democrats had the longer-term plan. Democrats see votes. They see votes and they see generations of people who can vote as Joe Biden right now begins to mount up some sort of push for massive amnesty, and not just a path for amnesty, a path to citizenship. So that word migrant is important to hang on to. But listen to this again. The emergency facility, part of the Trump administration that was only open for a month, is being reactivated right now to hold up to 700 children. Why do we now have 700 children at the border? Anyone? Why are there right now 700 children? And the answer is they've all come since Joe Biden was sworn in. Why? Because they believe that they're going to get exactly what I just talked about, citizenship. At minimum, they know that they will probably have a better life than they have had in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras. I empathize and sympathize with the lives that many of these young people and young adults, people of any age, live in these countries. I've traveled to these countries. Some of them, to semi-quote Donald Trump, are in fact holes. And it's a shame. It's sad. Their governments are corrupt. The governments have run the countries into the ground. You know, you will forever hear the left blame the United States for all of their problems. Totally not true. I can sympathize with people who simply want to make a better life for their children or themselves. But the problem is that we are, Joe Biden is, and the left is in this country, not even we. They're incentivizing young people, young mothers and fathers, to risk their lives crossing through jungles, mountains, the desert, facing off with cartels, human traffickers, and more. And it's horrifying. They are incentivizing people to risk their lives. And we now have 700 people, 700 children. This is just a fraction of what's coming across the border right now that have been reactivated in their cages. I'm sorry, it's not cages, in their migrant facilities. Let's get to some calls. Phone lines are open. We've got at least a line open if you want to give us a shout, 239-479-5592. Let's first go to Stephanie in Lehigh. Hey, Stephanie, you're on the drive. Hey. Really, I have had yet to hear them do that. That's pretty insane, but it doesn't surprise me. You too, thank you. I appreciate the call. Anti-choice radicals. Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to choice, I just think that the left smacks of hypocrisy when you hear the term choice being used, the party of choice, kind of like the party of science, when really it's only a choice when it's something that fits their agenda. It's only science when it fits their agenda. Let's go to another call. Dawn in the Cape. Hello, Dawn. You're on the drive. Whoa. Dawn. Hey. Yeah, well, that has been, in fact, something that we've seen happen in various parts of the country where actually a great example that I believe just came out of San Francisco in particular was actually multiple examples of where they wanted to place anything from a mental institution to homeless shelters. That was the big one in San Francisco as well as Manhattan. And you hear, no, we're not going to allow that in our neighborhood. It's the case of NIMBY. When I used to cover news, we'd always do this. You would hear you'd hear a group of people who would basically push for we need this, we need this, we need more affordable housing, we need more homeless shelters. And then as soon as you would have it placed anywhere near their neighborhood, it was no, 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 and there was total uproar. And that's NIMBY, not in my backyard. And that is something that we've seen time and time again with, quite frankly, wealthy white liberals in the country. People like Nancy Pelosi who push for this stuff, who say no wall, everybody should be welcome. And it's not a stretch to compare certain ways that she lives with the way that she wants the American public to live. And here's what I mean by that. She has, of course, a huge wall around her house. She wants to get rid of the Second Amendment, if not, regulate it into the ground, yet she's covered by security every single day. The way that these elites, especially liberals, live, they think that they get to play by a certain set of rules, that they can do whatever they want, they can have whatever they want, the protections that they want, the security that they want around their homes, which does in fact coincide in many ways, parallels in many ways with secure borders, to even crap like, hey, I'm going to shut down your restaurant, but I'm going to go out and fine dine. I'm going to shut down your salon, but I'm going to go get my hair did. We see these examples over and over and over. Do as I say, not as I do. And you see that happening with exactly so many different liberals who are legislating these rules right now in the United States Congress, and so many activists all over the country. And it really is, to me, it just so exemplifies the hypocrisy of liberalism, or where I just look at liberalism today and I just don't see the logic. I don't understand how things match up in their world. We can finish that conversation when we come back. This is The Drive. I'm Trey Radel. We'll be right back. Hey, so for those of you streaming us, I know that you can't hear sound bites and you can't hear calls. This is just part of us trying to figure out what the hell we're doing here, and how we're trying to pipe everything through on the stream. So I'm sorry, but we're working on that. We hope to be able to get that to you. So I see you. We can't hear Dawn. No. I know. We're trying to figure that out. I didn't even know that you could hear me until somebody pointed it out, till somebody wrote a comment. And thank you for doing so, because God knows what I would have said. So again, sound bites and callers, we will get that up there at some point. Thank you. Back with 2.5. Okay. No, that's good. No. All right. Play the guitar. All right. I'll play the guitar. One of the strings is missing. It's all out of tune. It's more of a prop, but I will play it. Brady, I will play that guitar at about 6 something. Y'all can still hear me right now, right? Check, check, check. Should be able to. I can't hear myself. Hey, Mike. Ah. Ironically, I was just being asked to play the guitar in the break. That's my guitar right there. Turn it up. Oh God, I'm cheesy and terrible. That's a little my guitar. We By the way, I also want to take a moment to say that we're always looking for music wherever in the world you're streaming us from. If you're listening here locally, we're looking for artists to put some more music into our rotation here, bumper music as they call it in the industry, because as we stream now, we can't play, artists who are signed to big labels. So shoot me an email, trey@925foxnews.com, trey@925foxnews.com. With any music that you've got, you can just send MP3, send a folder, a Google Drive folder, a Dropbox, whatever you got, and we will get your music on air here. Are you still jamming that? What's going on now? It's played it through. I feel so. I feel so disconnected here. I'm like looking at my ugly mug in a camera and not looking at you, Katrina, or you, Ian, and understanding like what you're doing or what other music is still popping up. And I don't know. I hope the show's okay, and I'm gonna still keep grinding away here. 6 o'clock hour. We will take your calls, and we're gonna talk a little bit about once again how Dr. Fauci, the supposed the second coming of Jesus Christ, when it comes to telling us what to do, how to live, has once again contradicted himself. And it just goes on and on and on. We've got some sound bites too to play from him. And I mean, from double, triple masking to no masks at all. What are we supposed to do here? Phone number is 239-479-5592. We'll get to your calls when we come back. Stick around. This is The Drive. I'll be back. I'll be back with guitar. Give me a minute. All right. Whoever that is on Twitch, you have to look into my Canadian rap artist, controversial songs. Yeah, sure. Give me Tom McDonald stuff. All right. I'm just doing this to show you I can actually really play. And by the way, I just wanted to let y'all know, best dad ever. This is totally... I'm missing a string. I can only play like the top 2 strings, I think. Oh, it's out of tune, too. I haven't played this in so long. It's so out of tune. I haven't played a long time, people. God, that's bad. This guitar. Oh boy. Deep Purple. I used to... It's so bad. Anybody name that tune? I don't know, Freebird. This is a totally out of tune, old ass guitar. Oh, this is so weird. Ah. I need to get a tuned guitar. Oh, here, let me try it. God, I haven't played these songs since like 1996. I can't do it. It's totally weird. It's weird just streaming the show from my home. Oh, I'm just so out of my element. And now I'm playing guitar. A guitar that just sounds like total shit. I'm trying to remember. What was that cheesy song by Bush? Hello, this is Gavin from Bush. Ah, there it is. I used to know it. There it is. Oh, it's so out of tune. Oh, I can't even deal with it anymore. All right. Do you know that song? Anybody know that song? I need to tune this guitar. Anybody know that one? All right, that's it. Hey, Ian, when are we back? Nah, I'm off ears for a second here. All right, Brady, you get credit. Glycerine. Yes. Oh, man. That dude had kind of a whiny voice, right? You know, it wasn't Machine Head. It was Glycerine, but it was the same band. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, this should be a whole different show. Just the show of In the Breaks. The show between the show. Trey Radel, your host of The Drive here. Welcome back. 6 o'clock hour here, day 2 of our special quarantine edition of The Drive. I am Trey Radel, broadcasting live from my home. You can always catch us streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And with this special edition, I did not know that people could hear me in the breaks, so now we just talk during the breaks. Ian, we got like a show and a show going on. I'm telling you, if you're listening to us on radio, I just busted out the guitar. Then played some really terrible 1990s music on a guitar that has not been tuned since probably 1990, maybe 7 or 8. I even busted out Nirvana and Bush. So there you have it. So you can also catch a rerun. The shows do post to our social media on Facebook 92.5, Facebook official Trey Radel, YouTube Trey Radel, Twitch as well. So if you are in the car and you want to listen to more of my annoying voice, you can always go and stream us when you get out of the car and head into your home. You should subject your entire family to my really crappy guitar playing. I should make that a habit now. In fact, I should bring my terrible guitar in studio with us next time I'm back in 92.5 when I'm done being quarantined. This is insane. This is weird. It's day 2 and I'm losing it a little bit, but we'll recuperate. I want to let you know a few things. Our buddy Drew, who is on from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on 92.5, is going to be at CPAC starting on Thursday. CPAC, it is like the holy grail for conservatives to go to, and they've got a whole list of speakers, including former President Donald Trump, who will be there speaking at CPAC. There's been some speculation as to what he's going to talk about. I don't like to get I share with you that I sometimes will watch MSNBC so you don't have to. Quite frankly, I think it's hilarious, especially the morning show with Morning Joe. I mean, it's a really funny show if you're not taking it too serious. CNN can be the same way. But I often also read really in the weeds, in the Beltway type of publications. Some of them you may have heard of, like Axios. There's even this one called the Punch Bowl, which really just gets in the weeds about who's doing what relationships exist, who's lobbying for what, why they're pushing for this or that. But Axios is speculating that Donald Trump is going to get to CPAC and say that he has total control of the party. I'm kind of curious about your thoughts on that. I'm especially curious to hear if there's anyone listening right now that thinks that Donald Trump should break off and have a third party. Phone number is 239-479-5592. You've got Donald Trump right now giving Mitch McConnell a lot of crap, and doing it in various ways that of the very few that he has now that he's not on social media. But he's going after Mitch McConnell. Do you think that's right? Look, I look at this, and I look at Mitch McConnell, and I still want to recognize that this is the same guy who pushed through 3 Supreme Court justices. This is the same guy who, when Harry Reid pulled out a knife, Mitch McConnell pulled out a gun and lit people up. Figuratively speaking, of course, we would never advocate for anything like that on this show. My God, I hope you know. I have a sense of humor, people, including those on the left who are streaming us right now from wherever in the world. And so it's a really interesting time right now to, I think, observe the Republican Party and see a few different things happening. Right now, you are looking at people like a Marco Rubio and a Rick Scott and a Ted Cruz, a Ben Sass, he's the dude out of Nebraska, who are all trying to figure out where the party's at, where they can go, because, of course, they're all gunning to run for president. No question about it. I undoubtedly think that Marco Rubio still has on his mind the idea that he wants to run for president. I think that Rick Scott has had that in mind since he ran for governor here in Florida. And of course, Ted Cruz, Ben Sass, and others. And it's really interesting to see them try to walk this fine line of who they are. Like, we often on this show talk about how when you are a candidate or an incumbent, when you're an incumbent, you're still a candidate all the time. You're a brand, you're a product. And when you run for something, you have to sell yourself. That's why you raise money. You raise money to be able to put out emails and TV commercials and radio commercials and regular mail to say, I'm the best, pick me. This is why you need to choose me or why you should like me, etc. And so you have these men and women, and the women include Haley out of South Carolina, the former governor, the current governor, Kristi Noem out of North Dakota. They're all trying to find their spot in the party. And Donald Trump undoubtedly still has a huge grip on the Republican Party. He has a base that is unshakable. The question is, though, depending on what direction Donald Trump takes, will that base follow? Will there ever be unity in the Republican Party? Or do we get to this, the kind of feeling, if you will, that I sense right now? We'll see what happens at CPAC when Donald Trump makes his first appearance here in Florida. It's going to be in Orlando, after losing the presidency. Will he come out swinging against Republicans or Democrats? Like that, I think, is one of the initial questions. Him and his entire Trump family and what will be an entirely new political organization in the state of Florida is going to have a huge effect on Florida politics. Now, Ivanka Trump says that she's not going to primary Marco Rubio. What is she eyeballing? I think she's going to run for a position. You start looking at the domino effect. Is Ron DeSantis going to run for president and then Ivanka Trump say that she's running for governor? All of these things are possible. But what happens to the Republican Party in the meantime? It fragments it potentially, or can he unify it? Let's get to some calls. Let's first go to a Tom in Fort Myers. Tom, you're on the drive. Hey, all right, Tom, what's up? But Tom, let me look. When I say this, I'm not trying to bust your chops. I want to understand more, because when you talk like this, like if you haven't heard before, like my thought is that we are so culturally and politically ingrained to have two parties in this country that that's it. That there will be no third party. No libertarian party is going to rise up. There are just not going to be any third party candidates. And the closest thing you had was a multi billionaire, Ross Perot, who made barely a dent in running for president. Some would say that he in fact ended up taking away from H.W. Bush and perhaps handing it to Bill Clinton. That said, what would this third party do? Why not? And let me ask you about Rick Scott. Why not Rick Scott? Like I understand the beef with Rubio. Why not? What did Rick Scott do that is not conservative? Rick Scott was like one of the most vocal people. See, here's what I think happened. Again, I don't want to just start busting your chops here, Tom, but Rick Scott was very vocal for Donald Trump. I think that unfortunately, a lot of Republican senators and even members of Congress just get relegated to you didn't do enough because they either weren't covered by the press or they were not complete psychos screaming at the top of their lungs. Is unfortunately, I think some people want more people to do. But Tom, it just look again. The reason I'm doing this is not to bust your chops, but it makes me sad. It disheartens me because Marco Rubio, for a lot of the faults that he's made, and I was a huge supporter of Marco. I still am. I will vote for Marco Rubio. If Marco Rubio is primary, that's a different story. I'd like to take a look. Of course, I'd look at anybody. But overwhelmingly, even though Marco pulled that ridiculous move with the a move towards amnesty with illegal immigration and dealing with the Democrats, he still has voted pretty damn conservative. Rick Scott is crazy conservative when you look at the people who keep track of those things, such as Club for Growth, Heritage, the Freedom Works, and others, grassroots organizations that do that. And so I would say then to you is, what's the other option, man? I mean, I get that in this country, unfortunately, a lot of the time, it is, I've got to vote for the lesser of two evils. And that's part of the way that this country is built. We're a two-party system, that's it. There's really no escaping it, which I've gotten into many other prior shows of how, again, politically, culturally, in terms of infrastructure, that's the way it's set up. So when you say, Tom, that you're never going to vote Republican again, I would ask, are you going to vote again? And if you are going to vote again, who do you vote for? The Democrat? And so if you had somebody primary, well, that's where you're supposed to. That's if you don't like an incumbent, a Marco Rubio, a Rick Scott, again, both gentlemen, I think, when you look at the overall big picture, I have voted as conservative as you could expect. Again, Marco, a few issues with Rick Scott, some issues of when he was governor, including red flag laws. But where you got to find someone is the primary. So that said, in fact, Tom, let me segue that, and I'm going to get to another caller here in a second. What Tom brings up is one of the areas that, in fact, Donald Trump and his family could really get involved in terms of shaping the Republican Party, and that would be in primaries. So you've seen this before. Let me give you a great example here locally in Southwest Florida. And if you're streaming us anywhere in the U.S., you'll understand this as well. You can have organizations, whether it is a Trump political organization, a Trump PAC, political action committee, or other grassroots organizations such as Club for Growth, Heritage, Freedom Works. These are organizations that will go into a primary and say, yeah, I see that you got this Republican who's the incumbent, like a Marco Rubio, but we're going to challenge him. We're going to spend a bunch of money to win that seat. In fact, those grassroots organizations supported Marco Rubio against Charlie Crist. Fast forward to this district here, Congressional District 19, in our last election. The top three vote getters were Byron Donalds, Dana Eagle, and Casey Asgar. Club for Growth spent roughly $4 million on Byron Donalds in the primary. And it undoubtedly had a huge effect on the way that he ended up winning. Now, what I'm saying is that you could see Donald Trump himself, who doesn't even need, a political action committee. He just needs his voice and putting out a statement. But you could see the Trump family, I think, very easily getting involved in primaries throughout the country against people like a Ben Sass. He's the Republican out of Nebraska who has gone after Trump at every turn, or other members of Congress that went after Trump. You could see the Trump family establishing some sort of a pack to get involved in those and reshape the Republican Party. And that is how you end up having a movement shape the party itself. That's what happened with the Tea Party. It was a movement in 2010 that helped the Republicans take back the House. And I think that the Trump family, with just the still stellar approval ratings that Donald Trump has, the powerful family altogether, the sons, the daughter, the money that they can raise, and they're now experienced political chops. I mean, this is going to be a powerhouse of a family. And that said, I'm very fascinated to see what happens when Donald Trump speaks at CPAC this weekend. Again, Drew Steele will be there starting on Thursday. We're going to take a break and be right back. Phone number is 239-479-5592. Callers on hold, I see you. Again, I'm still doing this quarantine edition. I'm not getting you right now. If you hold, I promise I will get to you as soon as we get back out of this break. 239-479-5592. I'm Trey Radel. This is The Drive. Hey. All right. Hey, Ian, Katrina. I'm just making sure that those three callers are still there. I'll get to them. Streamers, how you doing? What's going on? Let's see here. Let's see. Rich. Talk about Charlie Crist. Yeah, Rick Scott, for one thing, screwed up the unemployment system. Yeah, that was a mess by the time DeSantis had taken over. Scott, Rubio, DeSantis are not strong enough personalities. Politics is at least part showbiz, and you need some charisma with an attitude. Yeah, I'd agree. Is it Milto, by the way? Hey. How come Byron is so quiet? He's been loud. He's been on a lot of the news. How does the picture look? Does it look all right? Does it look fuzzy at all? I have this weird light. I have this weird glare. Look, this is me being OCD. Do you see that glare? It's killing me. You see that? Other than that, how's the picture look? You have to. Trey Radel, your host of The Drive here. See how I just did that? I'm here like rambling on with the people streaming us. If you want to check us out when you get home, you can pop us up on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. And during the breaks, I am out there. I'm chatting with people. Let me get to some calls here. Let's go to Ken from Oregon on a third party. Hey, Ken, you're on the drive. Hey, bud. Good. Second coming of what? So the second coming of Jesus, and what happens then? Dude, I don't know. I'm a little lost right now. How does the second, is Jesus working with the New World Order? I don't know. I'm lost. I've read the Bible. My God, I went to Catholic school all my life. Go ahead. I did, yeah. I went to Catholic school. Yeah, I am not much of a fan of this of the current Pope of Catholicism. I think has, my God, I'm just having a moment here, but yeah, I have been horribly let. I've been horribly let down by the Catholic Church. It saddens me. Yes, Ian, please, we'll extend. Um, and anyway, dude, I'm sorry. I'm trying to hang with you here, man. The Jesus is going to come down to earth, and what's going to happen? Yeah, but the scriptures don't cite the New World Order or swamp creatures as you did. So that's what I'm just trying to get at. I'm still entertaining this. Yeah, of course I know about treaties. No, I mean you get into the concept of the Constitution, but also federalism and how federalism can push back on treaties and beyond. Look, I don't. I mean, I don't know. We've gone from the second coming of Jesus Christ to how governments are going to push a new world order. I still don't understand how Jesus fits into that. What does Jesus do? Then how do they get their treaty formed? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm still entertaining this, but I'm with you, man. I don't know. All right. Okay. What did wokeism is racism is my opinion, but woke. Okay, so woke. By the way, you know what I'd love to do actually, because we do have such a cross section of generations that listen to the show, which I love. I love that. I love the fact that we've got 18-year-olds who call in, we got 88-year-olds who call in. Woke started out as a term that really meant you are woke. You see things. You see a bigger picture than most people do, and I believe that a lot of that started with roots on the left, but then it just became a political term, as so many other things do. Being woke means that you basically just comply with the Democrat agenda and you believe everything they say. So being woke would mean such things as the only type of people that can be racist in the Western world are white people. No minority can be racist. And if you, in fact, you're woke, if you understand that anyone who is black or Hispanic that voted for Donald Trump, that they are all brainwashed. Like, these are the types of things that they believe are woke, and wokeism is simply a new term for, I think, racism, because that's exactly what it is. Let's go to Richard from the Cape. Richard in Cape Coral on, again, a third party, which is what I thought Ken was going to talk about. But instead, we got the second coming of Jesus, and I don't know how Jesus has to do with treaties and Latin America and all of that and getting rid of evil people, but I love to entertain it. What's up, Richard? Yeah, let me be even more of a jerk, though, Richard. Tea partiers who ran on fiscal conservatism, Tea partiers who said that they would never raise the debt ceiling. Look, this is going to make everybody mad. But some of them, including a few people that I know personally, who I was either sworn into Congress with, who were the most hardcore fiscal conservatives, they went into the Trump administration and they just absolutely exploded deficits, and they started spending. And they became, a lot of the Tea Partiers became part of the swamp as well, and they would not push back on it. Now, let me also say, because I know that there's a lot of people that listen to this show that really like to get into the political weeds, I will say this, and this is going to sound, it's going to sound hypocritical, it's going to sound slimy, but it is what it is. When you have people like Mark Meadows, he was chief of staff to Donald Trump, Mick Mulvaney, who was also a chief of staff, those two dudes were the most hardcore fiscal conservatives, so much so that John Boehner hated them because they'd vote no on everything. No way, they were the ones anti-Republican. They were the ones who would not vote to raise the debt ceiling. Then they get in and Republicans control the White House. What happens every time Republicans control the White House? It goes from bitching about Obama's deficits for 8 years and the debt for 8 years to now we're going to run up deficits. And those guys did the exact same thing in the Trump administration. Look, I say this because I just want you to see as much as you can and see what I see, that unfortunately, like, while I can understand, okay, you get into power, maybe things change a little bit, but there wasn't even effort to shrink up those deficits or do any freaking thing about the debt. And so what you have are people who run against the swamp and they get into the administration and become part of it. Richard, sorry for the rant there, man, but it's just the reality. Go ahead, bud. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, she's part of leadership. So, Richard, look, just a generic overview of what you would want from a third party. What do you dislike about Republicans that you would want in a new party? What do you like about Democrats that you'd want in a new party? Yep. Yeah, there's lobbyists for everything. There's lobbyists to tell you to enact federal laws so French people quit exporting horses from Indiana to eat them. I'm being dead serious. there are lobby. I'm trying to think of some of the more random lobbyists that there are. But yeah, look, there are foreign policy lobbyists. There are lobbyists that lobby on behalf of entire countries that say, "Hey, you should give us more aid. You should do this. You should do that." There are lobbyists for ophthalmologists and dentists and more. And yeah, look, I think Richard, I know that we've spoken before. You know my stance on the military-industrial complex. That's why we're involved in endless wars. That I think Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump did as much as he could there, but it's tough. It is cultural. It's in Washington. It's ingrained, and it's a tough area to break. Richard, thank you for the call. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. This is The Drive. Sorry, I had to drop off there quickly. That I'd have to clear. Yeah, let's do one long. So for those of you streaming, I'm sorry. I know that it's tough. You can't hear the callers. I'm actually going to email someone right now about that. We're going to figure this out. How we can have the stream hear the callers and sound bites. Oh, this is the break. I thought you meant I still had one to clear, Ian. Oh. Um. Stand by. Let me look. Um. Yeah. Let's do it all. We'll go to 42, and then we'll just have one long segment. All right, Ian, and for those of you streaming, I emailed Drew, actually, who's the man with the streams. Hey, Ian, I mean, Drew has been streaming from home, right? Yeah. Trey Radel, your host of The Drive here. Should Fauci be fired? Katrina Ian, do you think Trump should have fired Fauci? I mean, we're at the point now where you've got Democrats who are also, it's interesting actually, the Democrats who are questioning Fauci, you've got some who are angry at his inconsistency, like Republicans are, but then you've got others who are super pissed at him because he's saying, follow the science, kids should be in school. And that has really upset a lot of the institutional Democrats who are, quite frankly, beholden to the teachers' unions. And you see still throughout the United States that teachers don't want to go to school. They don't want to work. It's pretty amazing how a lot of the groups that don't want to work or return to work are the same that are still getting a paycheck. And that is where we're at right now with how Fauci in particular has gone and upset a lot on the left. But if you just take a look at his inconsistencies, I mean, the guy has really been all over the place. Let's start with the most recent. Ian, let's listen to cut two. This is Dr. Fauci, who was on CNN recently. He was first asked about when will we get to normal? And Dana Bash, who also asks him this question you're about to hear about being a family, he couldn't answer that. He couldn't define normal. What I've often compared this to is how either warmongering neocon Democrats or Republicans who are pushing for our endless wars and for us to stay in Afghanistan, Iraq, go into Libya, Niger, and more, you ask them, can you clarify what is the end game here? Can you define what is victory in the war on terror? And they can't. No one knows. And it's a lot like how Fauci and other people, especially on the left, who are pro-lockdown or who are locking down their states and cities, can't really define when any of this is going to end or why, for example, you've got gymnasiums are open, schools are closed. The restaurants, which have bars in them, allow for some seating. They're open, but our schools are closed. You've got, bars that are open, salons are closed. None of this makes sense. And you cannot get any kind of clarity or definition of what normalcy will be, how we get there, or what it means to achieve victory. Again, whether we're talking about idiotic U.S. foreign policy or our policy with COVID. So now let's take a listen to Dr. Fauci. This, again, one of the more recent sound bites that he had here. Ian, let's listen to cut two. That's funny because it seems during the Trump administration, dude was all over the place making all kinds of recommendations and saying how we should live, what we should do, what kind of lockdowns we should have, and more. Phone lines are open, 239-479-5592. Should Fauci be fired? I mean, what has this guy been consistent on? 239-479-5592. So in looking at what Fauci has done over just the past year, you've got him now saying that he cannot define any kind of sense of normalcy. he is telling you that, telling Dana Bash of CNN, even though your parents are fully vaccinated, they cannot return to normal life. I mean, what is the point of the vaccine if you can't go back to living normal? Why even get it? Like, again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I have not taken the vaccine. All my children are vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I'm open to taking the vaccine, but I sure as hell am not going to be first in line because there are questions about it. There are valid and genuine questions about the vaccine. And so if you have those concerns and you're really hesitant to get the vaccine, and so you live at home, and my God, look at me right now, I'm quarantined. That is a completely different story. But, we live pretty safe. We wear our masks, wash our hands, doing all the things that you're supposed to do. Why am I going to go out and get the vaccine if nothing changes? What's the point? Why should you subject yourself to any kind of risk, even if it's a small risk with the COVID vaccine, however, whatever we find, in years from now after many, many studies? What's the point? What's the point if nothing changes? And that's all we're hearing now is we had heard, think about how all this started. It's pretty crazy when you begin reflecting back on about this time, late February of last year. Ian, Katrina, I remember sitting there and just being baffled as we started to watch dominoes fall of wow, the NCAA tournament will only take place in one city. Now I remember for whatever reason, that sticks out in my mind. The NCAA tournament now is canceled. That was one of the very first major sporting events that they said, we're done. We're just not going to do it. We're not doing it at all. There won't be one. And then you begin to see every other sport affected, public life, shutdowns begin, and we're told by Fauci, to bring it back to the gentleman, 14 days to flatten the curve. And here we are. It's February of 2021, right? And here we are still hearing that major states that are major integral parts of our economy, California and New York, are under still insane lockdowns. And you've got government leaders like Fauci who can't give a straight freaking answer to save his life. And it was a year ago that we were told just, maybe 10, maybe 14 at the most, days to flatten the curve. And you start reflecting back on the mixed messages and from Fauci himself, the types of statements like him telling 60 Minutes, you don't need to wear a mask. You wear a mask and you mess with a little bit. You start spreading your fingers in your nose and it just makes things worse. Fast forward to now, he's recommending double masking it. Triple. Or, I remember at the height of our paranoia here at home of the mail would come. We just spray it before I go I'm going to go light the mailbox on fire before I go get that piece of mail because God knows what could be spread there. And really, I think, Ian, what you highlight is the paranoia that was, and I think quite frankly continues to be instilled in so many Americans. I really cannot stress enough, if you're streaming us from here in Florida, you're listening to us here in Florida, we're so lucky. We do not have government leaders on the news every night scaring the absolute hell out of us. Our governor has handled this so well, and so have many of, quite frankly, our local elected officials and more. Because you go to states like Michigan, New York, California, they don't want to leave their homes. They're petrified. Petrified. There is no reasoning. There is no talking about science. There is no looking at statistics, for example. like we've done on the show many times, looked at California, Texas, Florida, and New York and seen Florida has pretty much, I mean, especially comparatively speaking, been wide open compared to these other states. And all of our numbers, about the same. But they're so scared. They're petrified. And when you get these mixed messages from Fauci of like, no, don't wear a mask. Wear 2 masks. You're going to be with your family soon. No, you're never going to be with your family. You can unmask at some point soon. I'm sure that we'll get rid of this. And you might be wearing masks until 2022. I mean, the goalposts have moved every 5 minutes. And it's no wonder that I think we have a nation that is freaked out, and leaders, so-called leaders, whether you're listening to Jen Psaki, the press secretary for Biden, or others who just are again scaring the hell out of the American people and telling you that nothing's going to be normal for a while. I've got a few minutes left. Let's go to Maria in Fort Myers. I got to be quick here. Go ahead, Maria. Sorry, Maria's gone. Let's go to Greg in Naples. Hey, Greg. Sure. Yep. Undoubtedly. Yep. Greg. Yeah. The party I think is radically changing, and that's actually another great story. I think I'll touch on tomorrow on how even more statistics, more demographic changes showing that the Republican Party is the party of blue collar. Greg, I appreciate it. Don, I've got a few minutes left here. Don in Naples, go ahead. Yep, go for it. Yep. Yeah, look, that's a great point. And you know, Don, you bring up a great point that I think sometimes we in the public miss when it comes to observing the insane swamp of Washington, D.C. And what I mean by that is that never ever forget that when you have someone like a Fauci, let's say, that works at the Department of Environmental Protection, or you have someone like a Fauci that works at somewhere like the Department of Education, they will do exactly what you said, Don, and put forward the flavor of the week. And what that means is anything that is political that helps them, because we can never forget that the politics of it steers the money to exactly what they're doing. In other words, if you constantly have a crisis in the environment, the DEP will always get more funding. If you constantly have failing schools in the United States, the Department of Education will always receive more money. And I think that it is worth noting that the way that Fauci's been doing this, I mean, at minimum, is just a bad job. Like Don said, it's just ignorant. The guy's, or like the previous caller, Greg said, he's consistently inconsistent. That's one thing, to just be bad at your job. But I do think that there are parts that are sinister when you begin looking at what he's doing and why, and whether or not it is simply to take a political angle to, in fact, make sure that lawmakers consistently spend more money on what he wants. That is really, unfortunately, how a lot of Washington works. I mean, you can never forget that. Whether it is a 501c3, a charitable cause, the Sierra Club that's here to help the environment, never forget that the only way that they raise donations or get funded is when there is a major crisis, even when there might not be. We are back tomorrow. I appreciate the calls. That does it for us. And thank you. For those of you streaming during commercial break, that was a lot of fun. We're back tomorrow. Take care. Stay safe out there. That was The Drive. Bye now.